So, how do you actually adapt your story, and how do you know what story to tell? Well, an important part of this is being able to be authentic to yourself and to thoroughly represent who you are as an individual, but also to express how you would be of value to this other group and how you would fit the needs that they have. Now, Sarah Carlson in our career services has given me this helpful example that I'm going to use of thinking about how do you choose the themes that you will use. And Sarah discusses how the theme is made up of a mixture of them and a mixture of me put together to give us the themes that will be important in our personal statement. So you can see how this Venn diagram represents the authenticity of myself. So I'm still representing who I am as an individual. I'm not thinking only about what does this institution want and how can I tell them that I'm that individual that they need, but I'm also being authentic to who I am and how I would meet those needs in this situation. But on the flip side, you can't only talk about whatever you would like in your personal statement. You can't craft a story that you think is humorous or you think is important in your life that doesn't actually illustrate anything about the specific position that you're applying for. So you have to think about what it is that that institution or group of people is actually looking for as well. And so by combining those two things, your understanding of this other group and your authenticity to yourself, you come up with the themes that will be most important in your personal statement. Now, another way of asking this same question would simply be to ask, where do I align with this audience? Where do the needs of this audience and my own interests intersect with each other? And then that will give you the themes that you need to highlight in your personal statement. If it's an academic application to a PhD or to grants or scholarships, you would want to highlight your academic background, your performance in academic institutions in the past, and your desires to continue studying. If you're applying for a church position or ordination, you're going to highlight your personal faith commitments, how you've prepared yourself for this task, and how you care for others and illustrate the important moral or ethical principles of Scripture. So you need to think about what it is that you as an individual can bring to this institution or group, and then highlight that in your story. So you can think about, what story do I tell that best illustrates and supports this theme? I've chosen the theme or themes that I think are important for this application and for this personal statement. Now, what story can I tell that actually illustrates these? Sometimes it's not your best story. Sometimes it's not the most compelling story that you have or the funniest story that you have. If you can relate some of those key moments of your life to these specific applications, then that's great, and you have a leg up, and you already have a head start on writing this application. But if you can't make that connection between a very significant event in your life and the needs of this specific application, then sometimes you have to choose a story that you think is less compelling than the others, but it actually illustrates better who you are as an individual with regard to this specific application that you're creating. And so you really want to think about not what is the best story that I have to tell about myself, but what is the best story I have to tell about myself for this situation? How am I illustrating the themes that I think are important to this application? And then another aspect of it, to continue kind of narrowing this down even sharper, is not only to think about what's the best story that you can tell, but then to think about what's the best parts of this story to tell. Now, we've all sat and listened to stories where somebody rambles on, and you get to the end and you wonder, what was the point of all of this kind of wandering path that we went on? So we don't want our personal statement to be that. We don't want to choose a great story that illustrates what a great leader I am, but then get lost in the details of explaining the small town where I grew up, or the classroom situation I was in, or why I was leading this group to begin with. We want to focus in on those things within that story that really illustrate who we are as leaders, who we are as people of faith, whatever it is that you're highlighting with your theme. So don't only think about what story best illustrates this, but then think about what aspects of this story illustrate that, and then present those aspects as priority within your story. Now, I think a reason that we often include too many details is because we want to be honest. We want to present the whole picture. So sometimes singling out those aspects that make us seem like a great leader or a great person of faith feels disingenuous to us, because it feels like that we know all of these other things contributed to this situation. And if we leave them out, then we're claiming credit for things that were contributed to, that other people contributed to. So I want to talk a little bit about that feeling, a little bit about that sensation of how do I be honest while also crafting a narrative that's specific to a group or to an institution and to the application that I'm putting forward. So the first thing to ask, obviously, with a personal statement is it honest? Is it true? Right? The goal of this personal statement is to be upright. It's for you to be able to say that this represents who I am. It may not represent everything that you are. It may not represent what are the most important things to you as an individual even. But you still want to be able to look at the personal statement at the end of the day and to say, yes, this accurately represents who I am and the things that I can contribute to this position. A way of kind of gauging how that feels to you, of whether it's honest or not, is to ask yourself, what would your closest friends or your family members say about this personal statement? If you were to hand it to somebody who knows you really well and to ask them to read it, and they were to say, you mentioned here that you're a great leader and that you always take charge, but I feel like you're always falling behind and not completing tasks, right? If you feel like it wouldn't line up with somebody's perception of you, then that's a good hint that maybe it's not being completely honest and presenting the actual qualities that you have as a candidate. And you can even, instead of doing a hypothetical of this, you can even actually go to people and ask them to read it and ask them to give you an honest feedback on whether it represents you as a leader. Because the flip side of this is that where some people might critique certain skills that you have, many people will look at the way that you've talked about yourself and they'll actually say, well, you say that you're a great leader and you give this example, but you actually downplay how important this was, or how important your leadership was, or how important your faith was to this specific situation. Because sometimes friends and family will talk more boldly about us than we will about ourselves. And so doing that as well gives us an opportunity to strengthen parts of our application where we think that we aren't being honest, or where we think that maybe we have to hedge our language a little bit. And we often do this under the guise of humility, right? That we don't want to appear too boastful. We don't want to appear too proud. So instead, we downplay some of our accomplishments and we downplay some of the skills that we have that would fit well with this particular institution. So I want you to think a little bit about the question of what is humility? What is genuine humility? Is genuine humility intentionally downplaying the skills that you have and not using them to their fullest ability? Is true humility lying about how significant an event was so that you don't look important? Now, if pride or boasting or arrogance is speaking too much about the things that you've accomplished or done and going beyond what you have actually accomplished, then true humility is just speaking honestly about the things that you have done. That is giving them the proper weight that they deserve, the proper weight that they had in these particular situations. So it's not being proud or arrogant to actually give yourself credit for the impact that you've had on specific situations. So as you craft a personal statement, whether it be for religious purposes, whether it be for religious institutions, whether it be for academic institutions, whether it's just simply for a job, a summer job even, think about the themes that are important to the application itself and to the institution that you're writing this personal statement for. And also think about yourself and think about the specific skills that you have that actually overlap with the needs of that institution. And if you can target those areas with your personal statement by speaking about yourself and illustrating how you fit the needs of this institution, then it will make your personal statement much stronger. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email me by clicking the link below. And you can also come by the Writing Center at any time and schedule a meeting with one of our tutors who will work through a personal statement with you, whether you've already written it or whether you're just in the brainstorming phase of working through what it is that you want to say. We're happy to help you work through that, and we're happy to be assistants in putting your best self forward with these applications. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you.